Hi everybody! It's been a while since I let you play with Guitar Station Series 2, and today it's time for a new plugin, or for two new plugins. And the first of the two is the TUKAN Studios SumChannel Series 2. So this is a channel strip. It consists of a desk input, a gate unit, a compressor unit, an equalizer unit, and a channel output. And of course, the input is the first in the chain and the output is the last in the chain, but the other three modules can be configured in their order up here, so you can rearrange them to any order you like. But we'll get to that later. Of course, as any channel strip, channel strips are there to give you the feeling of using an analog mixer. But where was the fun if we just had one analog mixer? So we have three analog mixers. So we can choose, this is desk 2, and down here I could choose desk 1 and desk 3. And I can even choose no desk. Of course, you may wonder why we can choose no desk when we have a channel strip, but that is because in a channel strip we have the input module, which gives us input saturation and desk noise. So that is a kind of sound coloration we get from this particular desk. And this, let's call it signature sound, depends on which desk you choose. And the amount of the saturation and of the desk noise can be adjusted. And of course, the big desks we all like so much don't have that much saturation and noise to them. So that is quite subtle, but don't worry, it still makes a difference. So let's stay in that input stage here. We have a high pass filter and a low pass filter. And then there is this SumThing group where we have 16 groups. So what is that now about? Let's imagine we have another channel strip on another channel, maybe a bass and a guitar or something like that. And we decided for the bass we want to take desk 3 and for the guitar we want to take desk 2 and everything's fine. But that is not how real life mixing works, because you don't have a desk and another desk for the guitar and another desk for the vocals. Usually you have in your studio one big mixing desk. And now for that SumThing group, here's the trick. We can choose a SumThing group. So maybe let's choose group 8 for this. And when I now choose group 8 for the other strip, it automatically switches to the desk 3. And no matter in which plugin I switch the desk, they will all switch together because they are in one group. So that is in a way the idea of you have one big mixing desk in your studio, but during your mix you still can decide which one you have. But we'll see that in practice soon. Let's get to the other plugin, and this is the TUKAN Studios SumBus Series 2. So what is that now about? Imagine you have a big mixing console and you have your input channels where you're mixing your single tracks, and they all get summed up in a bus. And there we could have a bus compressor and an additional equalizer with low and highs and our bus output. So that's the plugin for your mix bus. And of course, I would set that to group 8 in this case. And still, no matter from which plugin you choose your desk, they all will switch together. So now let's see this thing in practice. First, I'm gonna play some music for you, and that is of course Sandstorm by The Root.
Here come old flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got juju eyeball, he won holy roller. He got head down to his knees. Got to be a joker, he just do what he please.
So as you can see, there's a lot going on. But basically, this song is mixed with this SumThing plugin. I just used some lexicon reverbs and some delays, the Cocky Delay Series 2, which is this one, and the Guitar Station for some things. But all equalizers and saturation and compressors and gates and stuff are all SumThing. So let's first have a look at the drums. So here we have the drums room, and the overheads, floor tom, rack tom, the snare, the kick drum, and the drums folder. So these all use one SumThing. For example, the bass drum is set up like this. I chose desk 1 for the drums. And if I hit play, you can see the bass drum passing this channel.
Here come on, flat top, he come grooving.
And I put all the drums in group 1. So on the parent folder track, I have this SumBus plugin. And there I used a bit of the compressor, of the bus compressor in this group. I turned down the volume a bit, I turned up the high EQ a bit. And the SumBus, as the Sum channel as well, have a clipper in their output stage. So there's first a soft clipper and then a hard clipper. If you don't want to use these clippers, you can bypass them by just disabling this button. So here we can see the drum bus plugin.
Here come on, flat top, he come grooving up slowly. He got juju.
And here in the mixer, we can tell by the way the VU meters look that these are all the same desk. And now if I switch the desk, you see they all switch together. And for the drums, we're using group 1, which is indicated in the bottom right. So here's this little number 1 for the group we use. And in the overhead tracks, you'll notice a little number 1 top right. And this means something different. So if I open now both of the overhead, you see that it's in group 1, which is desk 1. We had that before. And up here it says it joins group 1. And that is a feature that is common to all the Series 2 plugins I made. And this can be accessed from the menu, and this is plugin grouping. So these plugins are now linked to each other, which means if I turn it up here, it moves in the other plugin as well. So they're always set up the same. And that of course makes sense for overhead microphones because they are a pair. This can come handy if you have multiple tracks of guitar and you always want to adjust them the same, or if you have multiple tracks of vocals and you always want to adjust them the same, and so on. So don't get confused with this SumThing group and the plugin grouping, because plugin grouping basically means plugin linking. And now we can see all these beautiful meters in our mixer. How did I do that? For all who don't know that, if you have a plugin and load it, it just shows up like this. And you can right click this and say show embedded UI in MCP. And especially for this plugin, this is handy because you can right click the meter and select the group and select the desk for the group. And you can also select if you want to VU meter the output or the gain reduction of the compressor. And for the SumBus plugin, you can also adjust the output level here. And that's not only handy for adjusting the output level, but it also tells you that it's not a Sum channel plugin. Let's take a further look on the mixer. So we see this is another color in the VU meter because this is set to no desk. These are the effect claps. And on the bass and all the other tracks, we have SumThing group 2, where I set up a SumBus channel in the master channel. So we have this group 2 here as well. And for the vocals, I use SumThing group 3 to switch them together. And you can see I chose a delay for the vocals, which makes this rockabilly slap delay sound for the vocals. And these are set to group 1 for this plug-in linking feature here. So now let's dive into the Sum channel plugin. Let me select another desk. And here we have the channel strip for the lead vocals, where you can see I turned on the saturation a bit more than usual. I dialed in the high pass filter at 174 Hz and the low pass filter at 6.8. And with this desk, it would sound like this.
ReaPack production, he got Warro's but he got no sideboard he won.
And this is why I chose desk 1, because in the saturation thing here, it gives a lot more drive. As you can tell from the knobs, this is meant to be the more tube-like mixer, and the tubes can be driven with the saturation knob. So let's hear the vocals with that overdrive effect.
ReaPack production, he got Warro's but he got no sideboard he won.
Hope you know what I mean. So now let's briefly go over the modules here. And I made this a bit bigger for you because yes, of course, the plugins are scalable. So, okay, this is a gate. It has an input meter, which can be reset by just clicking on the meter. And you can set a threshold value. And this is displayed here where your threshold is set. You can set up a sidechain for the gate, which you would have to address up here. And you can bypass all the modules separately. In the compressor, you would say, wait, there's an element missing. Where is my ratio? Well, it's not really missing. It's light up in blue because we have a variable ratio. You can enable and disable this function. But to show you what it means, let me show you another function of the compressor unit, and this is the plot function. So now we switched from the VU meter to a compressor plot, and this now shows you what the variable ratio means. So the higher the signal gets, the higher the ratio gets, until it ends up in a way of limiting. Of course, we could bypass this variable ratio, and now we get our ratio as we would know it. And we get an additional knob, which is the soft knee knob. So you can see this hard knee will be a soft knee if you enable that. And the rest of all is quite common. So we have threshold, ratio, attack, release, and the makeup gain. We can put up a sidechain input, which is also addressed up here. And we could bypass this unit. And as you saw before, we can switch from the plot view to the VU meter view. Well, the equalizer is in a way self-telling. So we have a high band, a high middle frequency band, a low middle frequency band. What? And before release, I'll change this to LMF. Oopsie. And we have the low frequency band. We can enable all the filters separately. And for the shelving filters, the high and the lows, we can set them to a bell-shaped filter. And because they have no adjustable filter Q or bandwidth, you can set them from a narrow Q to a wide Q. So let's get to the channel output stage. This knob is just for your meter calibration, and it refers to your 0 dB in the meters, corresponding to 0 dB FS. Additionally, they have their warn lights, the red LEDs here, which always blink if you cross 0 dB FS. Then we have this output trim where you can gain stage the whole plugin. And below that, we have the soft clipper and the hard clipper. And it's always first the soft clipper, then the hard clipper, of course. And we have the option to clip before trim. So this is really a gain stage for the whole plugin. And you do the clipping before that. And by default, this is not enabled. So we could drive the signal into the clipper from this output trim. And as usual in all the Series 2 plugins, we have a general bypass for bypassing all the plugins that are grouped together. The SumBus plugin has a bus compressor with threshold, ratio, attack, and release, and those can be set to auto if you turn the knob all the way up. It of course has a makeup gain, it has a detection high pass filter, and just as in the Sum channel plugins, we have the VU meter calibration. We have a low shelf and a high shelf filter where we can select narrow or wide Q. And we have this out, trim, and clippers as we saw before. And here this option is in the menu, Trim Pre-Clipper, if you want that. Music.
He got early warning, he got muddy water, he want mojo filter, he say 1 and 1 and 1 is 3. Got to be good looking 'cause he's so hard to see. Come together right now over me.
So that's it for today. I hope you have fun with the plugins, and bye bye.